everybody. Welcome back to Smoke Your Pipe and Be Silent. Or as my wife has called this channel as a little nickname, she calls it Shut Up and Smoke. Which, hey, whatever works for you. Welcome back after a little bit of a hiatus here over Easter. I've been traveling and busy with a lot of different things. But I'm back home now. The wife and son are still in the south of Sweden visiting relatives while I'm up north getting some work done on my master's thesis and trying to land after a lot of traveling. Hey, Guma, what do you do for you, I have a very needy dog. You know. Well, one thing that's been on my mind recently has been considering things of life to be in various ways either friends or enemies of your soul. And what I mean by that is that if you consider that all of us have a part of us that is below the surface, that is maybe in a sense who you really are, that is your innermost being, that is your heart, I mean, whatever you want to call it, however you want to understand it. We have something deeper than the surface that somehow we know when our soul is well or when it's in trouble. In an intuitive kind of way, you can tell when you're all right on the inside or not. And that can definitely be connected with circumstances of life. I mean, things that are outside of our control. But I'd like to say, I consider that the health of your soul is at the same time something that is very much in your own hands. In the book of 1 Peter, Peter writes about abstaining from sinful desires that wage war against your soul, is what he says. Now, I don't want to overly spiritualize this or turn this into necessarily a Christian discussion, even though for me it's very much connected with that. But I would say for all of us, there are things in our lives that wage war against our soul. There are things that consider them a spiritual reality. Consider them a spiritual reality or just practical consequences of whatever you do. There are things in our life that wage war against our soul. And even not just considering these things to be morally charged necessarily, like there's some sort of rule book that if you don't follow it, then your soul is not doing well, even though that may just be the case. I think some people sort of reject any sort of biblical notion of morality as old rules that don't apply to us anymore. But I'd say that's pretty naive. The Ten Commandments that so many people want to kick out of our enlightened, secularized society in many ways just describe reality as it is. Sure, do not covet is something that is an old rule that was given, according to the Christian tradition, Judeo-Christian tradition, is something given to Moses a long time ago. But hey, how does it go for your soul if you live your life coveting what other people have? Not being thankful for what you do have. Whether you consider that to be a moral rule of an old law or not, I'd still say that's a pretty fundamentally true assessment of reality. The list goes on. And I think if we don't actively stop to make a list or become aware, really, of things in your life, particularly for you, that are enemies of your soul, but even also friends of your soul, then we can live life sort of at the mercy of external circumstances in a way that can be really damaging. And so as I'm thinking about things I want to talk about in this channel, one thing I think I'm going to do in the near future is to make some short videos about things that I come across as I come across them in my own life that I find to be friends of my soul, that I find to be things that nourish me and keep me rooted in what is good and true. And then I think, I want to take this video to just stop and focus on sort of raising the question of what can be understood to be enemies of your soul. And to really encourage all of us to stop and take an inventory of your soul's friends and enemies. Write it down. Live life aware of what is nourishing you and what is draining you on the inside. I think when we can realize that and live aware of that, then we can save ourselves much ill and also learn to live life from a deeper source that I think our own health, our own life, and even the people around us can really be thankful for. I have a very, very needy dog, and she is a friend of my soul, can I say. My animals keep me reminding me of what is important and good in the world. But sometimes she needs all kinds of love at the wrong time. So lay down. Go to leg day. Leg. So anyway, what can be considered an enemy of your soul? I think for me personally, being in a hurry. Hurry is an enemy of my soul. When I stop and when I'm really busy with all kinds of stuff and I feel like I don't have enough time to make it all happen, and I spiral out of control in my inside, For me, when I'm in a hurry and I'm feeling overwhelmed and all that is connected with that, then I really need to stop and take an active step away from that hurry, that sense of urgency, to focus on what's really important. To stop and create space for silence and solitude, prayer. My pipe is an active step in the direction against hurry. If you smoke your pipe while you're in a hurry, then you're going to burn your tongue and regret it, right? Slow down. Hurry is an enemy of the soul. For me, comparing myself to other people, sort of being in a sneaky way, sort of covetous of what other people have or what path of life they chose. It's an enemy of the soul to see somebody else's path and life choices as somehow, if only I had done that, or if only I had that, or if only, whatever the case may be. Hey, all you can do is own the choices that you have made, the life that you do have, and water your own garden, not covet your neighbors, right? I've chosen a rather different path of life, moving from the US to the north of Sweden to first work with a missions organization, and then now to be studying theology and all that is entailing. So for me, it's very easy. It's been a trap for my soul to consider, what on earth have I done with my life? And, people that I have grown up with are doing other things that, more people can relate to. League. Whereas for me, it's league. I'm doing something very different. Well, hey, instead of coveting what other people have and what their life choices have, building up an illusion that somehow their life would be better, I have a whole lot to be thankful for and to work on in what I do have. The list goes on. I think for me, social media has, and sort of my phone has been an enemy of my soul in a lot of ways that over the past season of Lent, I've tried to take a step away from and realize that, wow, this is really not as harmless as it may seem to be scrolling through stuff and just sort of living in the alternative form of reality that the media would want to create for us, right? Things that seem to be harmless but really aren't. For me, it's been important this past 40 days of Lent that we're now out of, to step away from that and sort of assess, what is this doing for my soul? And for me, I've realized that it's really not doing much good. And so for me to engage with social media and the internet in a way that can do something positive for my soul is more in this sort of a fashion, to help to share thoughts and things of value with people online, to create something rather than consume a bunch of garbage. So that for me is an active step of recognizing what can be seemingly harmless in my life that actually is not doing my soul any good, and doing something about that. In the same way the news is, in a lot of ways just designed to get you upset. I think the current, especially American phenomenon of really doubting everything that the news says is some sort of conspiracy really is not healthy or necessarily totally true, even if it's partially true. But I think we're living in a time where the news has turned into a business that, while they, they do share things that are important for people to know about, they're also there to get you upset. And so you click on a link and they make money for that. So I've seen keeping up with the world as something important that can help me to be a more aware person, which is true in a sense, but I think gluing yourself to the news is at least in my life, an enemy of my soul. And so identifying these enemies means taking a step away from them and saying, whoa, it's easy for me to fill my life with these things, but what's it really doing for me? Create some empty space. And in that, identify what is actually a friend of your soul. Fill the space with that. Jesus said, what good is it if a man gains the whole world but loses his soul? I don't think you have to be a Christian to see that as a true statement. And so I take a minute to smoke my pipe and consider these things, because that's really what taking a moment to smoke your pipe leads to, I think, for me. An assessment of life from a place of pause, of lucidness. What do you think? What do you identify as the enemies of your soul? What are you going to do about it? I think in the next few days, I'm going to try to, as I said, upload some videos of the friends of the soul, things that actually help. But I wanted to make this video to sort of help us all to stop and pause and think, let's take inventory of our life. Till next time, this has been Smoke Your Pipe and Be Silent.